One of the things that has always bothered me about MMOs is the very nature of video game reviews. For example, IGN gave New World when it was released a 6, stating, "New World is a very pretty survival MMORPG hybrid that saves its best moments for the endgame, but you're gonna have to be willing to grind like hell to get to them." But then there is no follow-up to this, no review for Rise of the Angry Earth. And the same actually goes for PC Gamer as well, who says, "New World's engaging crafting and faction rivalries are held back by the abysmal PvE and a boring world." I get that these are just opinions, and I have long divorced myself from the need to justify the games that I play because of someone's score. So in today's video, I want to dive into the state of the game for New World and look forward to the year 2024 and the future of what this game will bring, because it will have a future despite what others have claimed. And I want to explore where the game can improve, because it's hard to argue at this point that this game is a failure. Wait a minute. What are we talking about here? 4.2 million views? Holy. I've been doing this YouTube thing all wrong. Guys, New World sucks. It's dying. We're going to be a hating on games channel from here on out, so you should like and subscribe. Hello everyone, and welcome to another New World video. Your friendly neighborhood New World propagandist here, delivering unto you, hopefully, an entertaining and fun video to ease the burdens of your New Year's resolutions hitting the floor. So whether you're listening to this video at the gym or crying into a bucket of ice cream, I'm really glad you're here. Now, this is State of the Game, New World. As of 2024, it has officially kicked into high gear, and we've been given several updates about what's to come, and I figured we'd also spend some time going over the player numbers and the timelines for this year. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this, but Josh Tripe Hayes said this:
Amazon Games showed how woefully incompetent they are at updating and balancing an MMO, and now it is crashing and burning. New World is still the 5th most played game on Steam, meaning it is still likely making a lot of money and has a substantial player base, but a substantial player base in comparison to what? Getting people to try your game is easy, getting them to stick around is hard. 1 million people tried New World on day 1, and now 100,000 play it on the daily. A 10% retention rate is not a great figure. Hopefully 2022 will bring many improvements to New World, and we will have a solid MMO to play and enjoy, but given the track record and the level of mechanical and system design skill shown, I am not holding out too much hope.
Now, this one was kind of easy to just gloss over, but did you hear him use the concurrent number as a representation for the total player population in that clip? This is a big reason why devs no longer report player numbers, and while we still glean these informations off of things like Steam Chart, whether this for good or for bad overall, this ends up just playing into both the genre that we claim to love, but also at the same time we're so thrilled to see it fall. And that is where I think a lot of the challenge for any new MMORPG will constantly have to face is, how do you survive the death spiral? And when it comes down to people reporting incorrectly off of player numbers, I think that only adds fuel to the fire. So let's actually jump into the numbers here, and let's take a look at where we are at the start of this year. And I can predict several things based off of their trends, but I can tell you right now, this line going up and down is a healthy sign. You want people to take breaks. You want to be able to bring new people in. You want people to return on occasion. Nobody needs to dedicate their lives to just one MMORPG. Those days have sailed. And I feel like as MMORPG players overall, we're all nomadic in this regards. Now, we're nomadic looking for a home, so the heart wants what it wants. But I think overall the health of a game is how you can step away and you can return, because you're going to appreciate those moments way more rather than just getting bitter and frustrated at the fact that certain things either don't go as well as you hoped or things end up getting delayed. But if we look at the 25,000 peak concurrent here in January, well, that equates to roughly 177,000 to 279,000 monthly active users. Yep, this is nowhere near as close as the high peak, but when Josh and others have stated that this level of drop was unprecedented, That just isn't true because it happens to all of these games. Fun Fact Freak highlights this in a comment to me over on my channel PAX Day Central, and he says, "No, I'll continue to play MMOs that have actual content with a community that doesn't jump on the latest bandwagon based on influencers, i.e. EverQuest, Lord of the Rings Online, and not a couple of pipe dream games that will probably crash and burn like every other modern MMO, because once the influencers move on and the locust of followers consume the content in 1 month, they will move on also." I think for the most part, this highlights one side of the problem. It's easy to blame content creators for the problems in gaming. In fact, I do in some instances share in that belief. And some of this is clearly warranted, especially when it comes to the locusts and the hive mind that we see plaguing the MMOs. Overconsumption, moving on, and championing in its death spiral. We clearly have seen from the views if you want to make money on the platform. Guys, I know that I'm going to sound a little bit biased, but stick with me here. There are also positive sides to content creation too, and it's also very easy to see how MMOs are hyped up, they're overconsumed, and then they're crapped all over for those sweet views. That's why MMOs shouldn't be judged off of just one specific update or their launch. But I argue it should be by their content, the team's communication, and the consistency in which the game is updated. So let's actually look at that as our true metric of success for New World. Now, looking over the last several months, you will see that without a fresh start server event this year, the expansion hype kicked off higher than it did in Brimstone Sands last year, but it had expected going into the holiday player count numbers started to fall. Now, this is the ebb and flow of a game, and it didn't really help that Season 4 missed out on so many features and updates that it did put a cloud over the game at the end of the year. This trend in the game's life does show the power of marketing and the power of these influencers. So whether it's good or bad, just note that any of the doomsaying really is just speculation. Just like all of this is speculation and hype and excitement. But when marketing is applied and marketing dollars are applied, aka back in November 2022, those are some big numbers. And that was a big event, and people got paid a lot for that event. And it was an exciting thing to be a part of. And so I'm very grateful for having that opportunity. But this year alone, going into the expansion, while the expansion did bring in over 166.6% of new players or returning players, it didn't have additional marketing. So you don't see the bigger hype buildup leading into the release of the expansion itself. Ultimately, I'm very curious about this year because we will, or should at least, see a new expansion among many other new and improved features. Now, while I'm bullish and will continue to be bullish on the state of New World, JMac weighs in saying the developers of this game have actively sabotaged the player experience. Do not play this game. And I would echo, like, if you guys are burnt out, if you're, like you're frustrated with the state of the game, it's better to step away rather than just become a bittered online ranter. I think there's just better things out there for each and every one of us. And then the internet still is also filled with other opinions. So like Jay, Pretty Guardian writes, I've for sure thought that this was a worthwhile expansion. A lot of people really try to minimize the changes by saying, oh, they just reskinned First Light, while ignoring the redesign of Eden's Grove, how in-depth the mounts and writing systems are, and all the other improvements and content that has come along. There's a lot to love here. And I definitely think Pretty Garden is, more in my camp where I kind of fall. But it is going to be how you perceive it at the end of the day. New World this year will be adding in controller support. This has been a big request that I have had, and I'm so glad that people have joined me in pushing for controller support for this game. The Steam version of it was passable, but what this is going to do, it's going to open up this game accessibility wise to so many players who are just asking me on usually once a month, hey, have they added the official controller support yet? Now, this is going to also be the first major step to bring this game to consoles. Now, while I continue to give them feedback about what is needed that's going to drive that experience home, for example, server guesting. in this world, and I think, there's probably a lot of people like me, there's so many really great options and games out there. I don't feel like waiting in a queue. And if they could just give you the ability to play the game, and when your server is ready, that you could then go on to your server, that solves so many problems. The cross-world support for the content is going to also solve so many problems, because now you can start to see people who want to have a lighter population server experience not be cut off from doing the content that they want to do. Anyhow, the year ahead will be one where we look back and we start to understand what Amazon means by them saying that they're all in on gaming. Now, for my personal state of the game, I have been really enjoying playing New World with you all. In fact, if you're interested in teaming up, Discord link is in the description, as well as any of the other links that do support the channel in one way or the other. I thank you if you do decide to support the channel in some way, shape, or form, but by hitting that like button and just watching the video, that is support enough, and I thank you so much for that support. New World for me, though, still needs a player aptitude level. This is where once you're level 65, you continue to get experience and quote-unquote level up, even though you're not getting any more power or attribute points. However, leveling from 60 to 65 for me felt great, but fleeting, and I hate when XP just falls on the ground. And the new seasonal model, they either could use the aptitude levels or just turn that XP straight up into seasonal XP, rather than have their current conversion that they do. A certain amount of, regular XP turns into seasonal XP. Just make it worthwhile. Give me a bar that I can track, and that's going to keep me motivated to killing monsters out in the open world, as well as doing quests and everything else that is on my list of things that I want to do. The other thing I really actually want to see them add to the game in and of itself is a feature from Guild Wars 2. It's actually weird because they do have this in the game right now, but it's only just for PvP. What I want is to see for the PvE side of the game, the longer the mob has actually been spawned, the more bonus experience they will give you upon killing them. I think this would be an exciting and rewarding system to offer more players open world grinding opportunities, and this would also open up new areas to farm XP where players don't normally find themselves. I also like to think that the devs need some type of PvP event like they do with the PvE events, where it runs for maybe like a week and then it takes some time off, whether it's another week break or it toggles between something that's arena focused, OPR focused, and open world PvP focused, so that way players who really enjoy PvP can be excited about these upcoming events. We continue to get events for the PvE side, and I really hope that we see 2024 have them invest in the PvP side as well, because that I think will bring some level of excitement for players that have been clamoring for it. And I also echo what people have stated: new OPR maps, new content. I'm all on board for that, but I wanted to highlight some of the things that I just think I stand out a little bit differently in terms of that feedback. So when it's all said and done, continue to provide your feedback to this game, guys. It's going to continue to improve. And I think because of where they're headed, especially with the future and what their goals are for Amazon Game Studios, it's going to be an interesting decade to say the least. And I don't want you to miss out on that. I think that's something I see a lot. A lot of people end up wishing that they had an experience that no longer is available, and MMOs are a constant force of change. But let's go ahead and dive even deeper and look at the secret weapon that AGS wields, and it's the power of Twitch and Twitch drops. It's no secret that when New World has massive draw numbers, whenever a drop campaign is going on, they don't need to pay streamers to stream the game. The drops provide that level of incentive for many to pick up the game and stream it. But because this is state of the game, let's look into the numbers. July 2023 saw an increase of 97% of people watching. We saw a dip in August down to 63%. This can start to be explained by what else is going on in the industry. Think Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield, just to name two games. Now, whether you like either of those games or both of those games or none of those games, they had people's attention. Then back into September, getting into that pre-expansion hype, you see an increase of 39.7%. Then filing in October with the release of Rise of the Angry Earth, this is where you see the biggest jump in viewership at 456%. 7%. Now we're going to explore some more historical data here in just a second, but hold this number in your mind for just a little bit. Then in November, that's where we start to see a decline after the hype of the expansion drops and November releases come out and people start playing those games. But what's really interesting is just the return that we've seen with Season 4, which dropped in December. And you can see here clearly from the chart itself where it starts to peak. And that is a huge impact of the Twitch drop marketing campaign. But let's take a moment to actually look more at the historical data. If you look at this chart, obviously you can see the launch and the pre-launch betas, etc., drawing in a lot of attention and a lot of hype. And it does make the rest of the chart look like we're not seeing much growth. Here's the thing. Hype is a hell of a drug, but it isn't a true representation of is this a good game or not. MMO players overconsume the content, they leave, and maybe they come back. And that's why we've seen a shift in how these games have been designed. But now if we start to look at it more in terms of a closer time period, you have the Brimstone Sands launch. Only it's right here where this is the return and fresh start server campaign. We saw that already in the numbers within Steam charts. This is reflective of that is kind of acting as a heat map. But if we zoom in even further and we start looking kind of at the last year, we're seeing things continue to trend upwards, and we're seeing the seasonal model applied here with these natural peaks and valleys in the game and its community. And here with Rise of the Angry Earth, it generates all new interest and momentum. And what you'll end up seeing is here's numbers will go down and then eventually the numbers come up. And that is a sign of health, that there's going to be a continual interest in the game, in its improvement, and what it can offer players. But if you guys are looking for more just amazing people, this site also has great content creators in the tops ranks. So if you just want to focus in on English, you can click on that. I'll include a link in the description for you, but it's got the top 3 rated English speaking streamers as Streamer House, The Hidden Gaming Layer, and Baggins TV. So guys, if you are looking for somebody to get some drops from, you can always use those. You can always follow me over on Twitch. The links to all the content that I make, podcasts, and so much more are all in that Linktree description link for you. So hopefully go check that out. And I hope to see you over in the podcast and so much more. Whether you do decide to go hang out and lurk on Twitch and get the drops that way, you can always just watch me stream on YouTube if that's your preference over at Ginger Prime. Because change is really the only thing guaranteed about this life. New World is a success. It continues to be so. But it's not perfect, and we all know it. If you're bored or burnt out, just take a break. But if you're looking for something different from what else exists on the market today, this is a great time to return or start playing. And this year is going to be one that I think you should be really excited about. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. That wraps it up for State of the Game. I really hope to see you next time. But until then, everyone, take care.